Lauren Broncostella. There's a right way to cook, there's a wrong way to cook, and then there's my way, because it's Lauren, of course. Today we are talking turkey. We're gonna roast a beautiful Thanksgiving turkey. I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know about how to make it beautiful, golden brown, moist, tender, all about technique, not torture. The most important thing about roasting a turkey is, first of all, selecting a good turkey. And what makes a good turkey? Several things. One, that it not be too big. You want the turkey to be somewhere between 11 and 13 pounds. That's ideal. If you have Thanksgiving for 20-something people, my personal recommendation is roast 2 12-pound or 13-pound turkeys. The bigger they are, the more cumbersome it is to cook, in that it takes not only a very long time, but to get everything cooked, something's gonna suffer. Something's gonna get dried out, so something else is cooked properly. They're just big turkeys are just too big. Highly recommend an 11 to 13-pound turkey. Besides that, you want the turkey to be pink in flesh with a white skin. You don't want a yellow bird. So steer clear from that. The other thing is, ideally, you'd like to have a bird that has a nice plump breast. Nothing too plump. You don't want it to look like it had a boob job, but you want it to be a healthy bird with nice legs and thighs, plump breast, and all of them, unless you hunted the thing yourself, come with this thermometer. Get it out. Take it straight out. You don't want this. It's not going to tell you anything. Goodbye. Now that you've gotten rid of the thermometer that you don't need, you want to get all the other surprises out of the bird. So we've got usually some kidneys, livers in there, and very importantly, the neck. The neck, assuming you have a nice bird that is free range and not raised on hormones, you want to keep the neck. If you have a bird that is raised on hormones, they often inject the hormones into the neck. So I don't recommend using those birds in general, and definitely not the necks of those birds. What's good about the neck is it just helps to make a great gravy. So you're gonna keep it at the bottom of the pan, and it's gonna help to just reinforce all those wonderful flavors, just more good stuff. Let's see what else is in here. Nothing. Okay, so now the key is we want to get this bird nice and rinsed. I already pre-rinsed this, so I don't have to rinse it, but if you're starting the other way around and pulling the stuff out first, you can then rinse it. And then let's talk about this thing. This thing here is to truss the bird and keep the legs closed together so that it holds its shape. So I don't love using this plastic thing during the baking process. I like to take it off and retruss the legs myself with twine. That's your call. But definitely keeping the legs close together is important. This makes for a more plump bird. Before we season the bird, we need to get the aromatics ready for the bottom of the pan. That's what's going to help give you a great gravy at the end of your turkey roasting. I like to keep it really simple and do a classic mirepoix. Mirepoix is 25% celery, 25% carrots, and 50% onions, and that's volumetric, so it can be visual. You can just tell that you've got the right ratios. I don't even peel the carrots. There's no need. I just cut them in chunks, just like that. I'll do the same for the celery. A couple celery leaves won't hurt anybody. It's all about technique, not torture. You're not eating any of this. It's just mirepoix. It is giving itself to the drippings, and there's no reason to spend more time doing more work peeling it. It's good as it is. With respect to the onions, I do peel them because I just want them in nice big chunks, and I do want as much of the onion juice, onion sweetness, everything it has to give to the drippings. And when I'm making chicken soup, I like the skins because it helps to add color to the soup, but that's not important here for the drippings. So the onions you can peel, and then just into big wedges. And now we're just looking for the right ratios. Do we have twice as many onions as we have individually carrots and celery? Yes. We have an even amount of both, right? 25 is 50, and then 50. Good to go. I have the aromatics and the neck in this pan. I'm gonna throw in 2 crushed cloves of garlic just to add a little extra flavor. Just smashed them with my hand and peeled them. And then I'm gonna set my rack. I like to use this V-rack, which you can get on my Amazon store if you want. I have it there. I like to use a rack for the turkey just to keep it elevated, helps keep it nice and crisp, get it cooked beautifully, and have all the drippings go right where they need to go. All right, before we season this and get this in the oven, I want to tell you a couple of really important things about your turkey. One, do not stuff the turkey. Other than all these wonderful herbs that we're going to put inside the turkey, we do not stuff the turkey with stuffing. We make stuffing in a casserole dish on the side and we call it dressing. The reason is this turkey has a cavity. Inside the cavity can go heat unless we block it with stuffing. If we block it with stuffing, it can't cook from both the inside and the outside, which is ideal. If we block it with stuffing, it takes a really long time to get the breast done. And then everything else overcooks. The breast ends up getting dried out. Everybody complains my turkey isn't done. It's dried out. That's why if you stuff the turkey, it's game over. Also, it's not a healthy way to eat stuffing. Stuffing invariably has eggs in it, and that might not get cooked thoroughly if it's all crammed in there and it can't get the heat it needs to cook. So please, you want air circulating around the bird and air circulating through the bird. If you stuff it with herbs, or if you like lemon, citrus, whatever your flavors are that you enjoy, and anything goes, as long as it can get air in there. Don't pack it with stuffing. I hope I've made my case. All right, the next thing is, I don't brine my bird. I don't do it not because it isn't delicious. Brined birds are delicious. I personally find it to be a lot of work for not that much gain. A turkey has got gravy on it, cranberry sauce, a pile of stuffing, and potentially potatoes, sweet potatoes, green beans, Brussels sprouts, whatever you've got going on. The effort put into brine a bird, I just don't think it's worth it. I think far better to just season it properly and heavily, to not stuff it, to trust the legs, and the final thing, which I'll keep repeating, is to keep the oven door shut. We're not gonna hang out with the bird and look at the bird with the door open. We'll get into that as we go along in this video. It's very important after you've rinsed your bird, cleaned your bird, dried your bird, to let it actually sit out for a bit. Half an hour, even up to an hour, it'll stay cold. Even a small bird like this, which is 13 pounds, is still big enough to retain that cool temperature. You don't have to worry about that. But you don't want it to be wet before it goes in the oven. So this is truly nice and dry. You can even see my paper towel is barely damp. I'm gonna come back in here one more time, the inside of the cavity, which is less important for it to be bone dry, because things it steams from within. But you do wanna make sure it's, no blood, no excess. And then from there, we heavily, this is an unbrined bird again, we heavily season this. And that means lots of kosher salt all over and lots of pepper all over. That includes the inside. Now, I like to pour my pre-ground pepper in this case because it's easier to work with, and salt into little ramekins before I start working. The reason being, I don't want to reuse these seasonings. Turkeys do not carry salmonella, but nevertheless, it is raw meat, raw skin. We do not want to cross-contaminate. And of course, when we're done with this process, we're washing our hands thoroughly. But we're heavily seasoning this bird. Want to make sure it has great flavor. If you've brined your bird, you will not be seasoning it this heavily with salt. You could argue you won't be seasoning it at all because that's what the brine is. Pepper, on the other hand, even if you brine it, you can do. So with this unbrined bird, we're going to town. Now that the bird is beautifully seasoned on the outside and the inside, it's time to stuff it with herbs, and I mean stuff it with herbs. Tons of sage, tons of thyme, and tons of rosemary. If you have savory or fresh marjoram, or you like oregano, that works too. When I say pack the turkey with herbs, I just want to be really clear. You can put all of this in there. You can put a lot of herbs inside the turkey. It's just gonna steam in there and make it fragrant and flavorful. It's a lot easier than trying to shove it under the skin, which is, a way to go, but technique, not torture, baby. Next thing we have to do is take a piece of twine, not even a foot long, so we can tie those legs together. Not only does it help keep the herbs in, but more importantly, it helps keep the beautiful shape of the bird. the secret to making the bird not only flavorful, but have a gorgeous, even golden brown hue, which you're gonna see, I guarantee it's gonna be perfect, is cheesecloth soaked in butter. You heard me. So we wanna get a nice big square of it. So I just take the package of cheesecloth and just cut it up. All right, now that we have this gorgeous piece of cheesecloth, which just so you can see it unfurled, is about yay big. You could imagine how beautifully it's going to drape over the breast of the bird, okay? But here's the thing. We wanna get this stick of butter in the cheesecloth, all right? Look at that. It almost takes it all. Can you see that? It almost takes it all. So now we just unfurl this, drape it on top of the bird, and then pour what's left in the bowl over that. All right, our turkey is almost ready to go in the oven, so let's review. One, we have a turkey that is not too big. It's 13 pounds. It has beautiful pink flesh, white skin, not yellow. Legs are tied and trussed. There's no stuffing in there, just fresh herbs, tons of salt and pepper, mirepoix in the bottom of the pan with the neck. It's on a V-rack and it is now covered in butter, evenly distributed with the aid of cheesecloth. Next big thing to do, and this is super important, we have a preheated oven. It is preheated to 450 and we check to make sure that the rack is in low position in the oven so this will fit in there. That's a big thing. But once it goes in at 450, we immediately drop the temperature to 325. Why? We start at 450 because when I open the oven door and get this turkey in, which might take me the better part of 10 seconds, a lot of heat comes out of the oven. So to keep that even 325 degree temperature that we want to roast this beautiful bird, we start at 450 so that in those 10-20 seconds to wrangle the pan in the oven, we kind of have an evenness there. It's a huge tip and something I really recommend you do. One other important thing, how long does the bird cook? Very simply, 15 minutes a pound, guys. So I have a 13-pound bird. We're gonna go about 3.5 hours. In it goes. Turkey looks good. There's just a little bit of drippings in the pan, not a ton. It has a lot more to go. There's not much to baste here, but this is really helping to keep it moist and delicious. All right, it's been about 2.5 hours of our 3.5 hours for our turkey, so let's take a look. The turkey is gorgeous. It still has another hour to go, but I want to show you close up what's going on inside the pan. As you can see, inside the pan, we have some drippings, we have some fat there, and everything is looking very, very good. And now let's take a look at the bird itself. Look at the color, guys. Is that incredible? Look at that. Perfect. Perfect. That is a Thanksgiving turkey that you're gonna want. Look at that. Perfect. This looks great. We can lift off the cheesecloth and see it's beautiful. It's getting this beautiful color on the legs. The drippings in the pan look great. I wanna add a little bit of chicken stock. If you have already made turkey stock, of course you can use turkey stock. I'm gonna take about, I don't know, no more than half a cup, not much, maybe 1/3 of a cup of chicken stock, just to keep it moist in the pan. Because we're gonna be using those drippings to make our gravy. So this will facilitate, helping them get up from the pan. I also wanna add a few more pats of butter. Just because, whoops, fell right in the pan. That's okay, it'll become part of the gravy. I think these couple pats of butter will just help further flavor and season and help to make brown this beautiful bird. I'm gonna let them kind of slink around to moisten this bird. And then I'm gonna put a little more salt and pepper. Never hurts, trust me on that. Never hurts on a bird that was not brined to add a little more. And I'll even throw a pat of butter in the cavity. I'll put 2 pats of butter in the cavity. This is about 2 tablespoons or so of butter all in. And just a little more salt. Coming down the home stretch, guys, with this. This is really good. And a little more pepper. At this point, we can leave the cheesecloth off and let all the browning happen without the cheesecloth. So 1 hour to go on this bird, and then it's gravy time. Look at this bird. Perfect every single time. Every single time. I've never made a bad bird. It's always gorgeous, and it's always so easy when you follow technique, not torture. This was a simple bird, right? Salt, pepper, butter, mirepoix in the bottom of the pan. It wasn't herbs in the cavity. It wasn't a fancy, crazy recipe. We didn't stuff an herb butter under the skin or do some, crazy technique. Really simple. You can do any flavors you want. You can make it your own. You can stuff an herb butter under the skin. You can make some incredible flavors, but it doesn't have to be hard. It just doesn't. I'm telling you, it can be really easy if you follow the technique, if you get a good turkey, if you tie the legs together, if you only thing you stuff inside that cavity are aromatics, herbs, spices, flavors, citrus, whatever, but not stuffing. You keep that oven door shut. You start at a high temperature. You too can have a gorgeous turkey. All right, enough gloating. It's time to make the gravy. But let's just gloat a little bit longer. Are you looking at this gorgeous bad boy? I mean, hello. It is just fantastic. The color is perfectly cooked, crispy skin. Ah, look at that. I mean, it's just, you can't beat this. Perfect turkey every single time. All right, so we need to get the bird out onto a platter and tent it while we make the gravy, maybe throw some stuffing and sweet potatoes in the oven to warm up, saute some Brussels sprouts or green beans on the stovetop. Obviously, if it's on a V-rack, you can lift this out nice and easily, but you still have to get it from the V-rack onto the platter. I love, using turkey lifters. I sell them on my Amazon store. They're very inexpensive. It is kind of a once-a-year tool in a way, unless you're roasting a lot of goose or other big animals, other big roasts, I should say. But it's once a year, every year, forever. So it's a tool worth having. And you can just carefully lift the turkey up onto the platter. Easy as can be. Now we can deal with our gravy and we can untie the twine on the legs. Okay, gravy time. It's looking really good in here. You can see. We did put a little bit of chicken stock in there just to, what was it, at about the 2 hour mark, just to make it a little easier. All right, so we just want to get all of the liquid out. And I have a measuring cup here. We don't eat these roasted veggies. You don't eat mirepoix. It's given everything it has to give to the drippings. Or if you're making a stock, to the stock. You don't eat it. But we want to get any moisture from it we can into the bottom of the pan, because that's going to be the base of the roux, R-O-U-X, which is going to be equal parts fat and flour, equal parts this liquid and flour to make our gravy. Okay, so we're just pushing down on this just to make sure we get all the moisture out. Everything the mirepoix has to give, we can get the cumbersome neck out of the way. It's delicious. You can, gnaw on that, chew on that if you want. But what's in here is what we really want. And just giving this a little press like this ensures that we miss nothing, because look, that's where the good stuff comes out, from that extra bit of pressing. See, look, I just got my board dirty, but that's how good and dark and flavorful that is. That's what we want. So we have 1/4 cup of pure fat on top, and then the remainder of the drippings on the bottom. It's about 1/4 cup of each. We need 1/4 cup of fat to make our gravy. So we're perfect. We have all the fat we need. Now, you have options. You can separate the fat from the rest of the drippings, which is more like juices, pan juices, and that bit of stock that we had put in the pan about halfway through. Or you could just dump it all in. Your gravy will come out well either way. I'm one for technique, not torture, work smarter, not harder, so I'm just gonna dump all of it in, all of that goodness in. Now, because it's 1/4 cup of fat that was in there, and 1/4 cup of the rest, and you can, see the beautiful dark color it was, I'm just going to add 1/4 cup of flour. We're matching the flour to the volume of fat that we had, and that was 1/4 cup. So the heat's on, we're gonna put that 1/4 cup in, and then we're going to whisk. 1/4 cup of flour with 1/4 cup of fat, plus, like I said, instead of separating the rest of the drippings from the fat, we're gonna keep the heat on medium to medium low. Why even bother? It's just more work. You don't wanna work harder, you wanna work smarter. But we wanna match that fat and the flour. So you can see, this is our roux. It's very thin by comparison to a normal roux because, again, it was 1/4 cup of drippings with 1/4 cup of the specific fat plus the 1/4 cup of flour. So we had, twice as much liquid as flour, but that's okay. We're just subtracting that gravy amount, that liquid amount for the gravy from this. This would be 4 cups. It's 3.5 cups, 3 3/4 cups, again, because 1/4 cup of it came from those drippings. I'm probably being really confusing as I'm doing this, and I can't redo it because I'm doing it right now for you live. I've only got one set of turkey to do this, so let me explain it again. The ratios are as follows. As I cook this, by the way, over at this point in medium-low heat, and I don't know if you can see, pretty gorgeous gravy, right? Pretty gorgeous. So I'm whisking, not a lump in sight. I'm adding warm liquid. This is warm chicken stock. You can use turkey stock if you have some. Doesn't really matter. And we're doing it slowly over the heat. But these are the ratios. 1/4 cup of fat, 1/4 cup of flour, 4 cups of stock. I might not end up using all this stock. I might only use in total 3 cups and change. We'll have to see. Once you don't have any lumps, which I don't have, it's perfect. I'll come in tight for you in a second here. You can use a spoon if you want. You don't have to use the whisk. Oh, it's beautiful, so nice and thick. And that means I can very slowly add a little more just to get the volume and the flavor going for absolutely perfect gravy. Slow and low is the name of the game. I'm scraping the sides. That's where it tends to thicken first. And then you draw that thickness into the center of the pan. Definitely, if you feel like it's getting too sticky or scalded or anything, lower the heat. You can always work longer, but you can't take away what scalds or burns. So slow and low is the name of the game. I can continue to add stock a little bit at a time here as it continues to thicken. And that's just gonna give me the volume and the amount of gravy I want, great ratios for flavor. We will season with salt and pepper when it's done, when it's at the thickness I want and I've used as much liquid as I want. I don't think I'm gonna use all of this. This will probably be about 3 cups of stock for my gravy total and not 4. But the ratio is always 1/4 cup of fat, 1/4 cup of flour, and have on hand 4 cups of hot stock. God, this is gorgeous. Perfect. Not a lump in sight. How do you know when the gravy's done? Well, it has to be the thickness you like. I personally do not like a gravy that is, as my son would say, super gloppy woppy. I don't like it really thick and gelatinous and like almost soup-like in that way. I don't want it to be a bisque. I want it to be a gravy. So for me, the simple classical designation of, and this is hot, running your finger through the back of the spoon and seeing the line, the railroad marks, That's good enough for me. This coats the spoon beautifully. That's the perfect thickness. I'm gonna taste it to see if it needs any salt and pepper. It might not, because our turkey was seasoned so well, and that goes right down into the drippings. But you know, it's hot, be careful. We have to taste and make sure. And actually here you can see how it coats the spoon better than on the wooden spoon. That's perfect. That's so good. You know, I don't really know that it needs much more salt, but I think a little bit of pepper for this would be lovely. Lovely. This is so good. All right, now it goes in this beautiful vessel. Let's see if I can do this without spilling. I mean, come on. It's flawless. Not a lump in sight. Very proud of my gravy skills today. No, but seriously, this is the idiot-proof technique, not torture, way to get it done. And I mean, pretty good. All right, guys, our finished bird. It's a beauty. It's evenly browned everywhere. It has crisp skin, beautiful moist meat for sure. We'll slice it up in a second and you'll see we have gorgeous gravy to go with it. It's always nice, I think, to present a bird before you carve it up. So I like to plate it with fresh herbs. I throw whole chestnuts down, fresh cranberries. These are some persimmons. If you have kumquats or clementines, I always think something orange is lovely. And then sometimes, you know, we don't stuff our bird, as I've convinced you already is a good idea, I hope. But it's nice sometimes to put some herbs right in the cavity and just present it to everyone. So I present this to you, and then we'll carve it. There's gonna be a little bit of juice inside of this bird as it's coming out already. And we could either put that back into our gravy or just use it to keep the meat moist. We cut the thighs, as you remember from the twine. Now it's time to get the wings off and the legs off. I like to do that before getting the breast off. So I'm just gonna cut right along this mark here. And this bird has been resting for probably 40 minutes. So it's good. It's still hot, but it's not too hot to touch. And now we have the legs can actually come off, which is wonderful. And they just come, look at that. They come right off. Right off. These beautiful, gorgeous legs. And that can go down on the platter. So, wings. Wings can be a bit cumbersome. I like to come in and take these third joints off first, the ends. Some people like to snack on them because it's crispy skin, but you mostly don't need to serve it. Now you can access the breast, which is good. If you want, you can take the wings off, the second joint of the wing, that middle part of the wing, and then that'll expose the breast even more. That can be a nice thing to do, kind of your call. All right, and it's, again, there's joints there, so it'll just be an easy cut. Right where the joint is, it'll just cut across, all right? Now for the breast, there's a lot of different ways people do it. Some people like to unearth the whole breast and slice it into pieces in a way that's easier rather than carving pieces off the breast as it's on the bone. I'll show you both if that's helpful. Okay, so here it is carving it while it's on the bone, which I really is not my preference, but a lot of people like this and I want to show you. So you take the first cut, look at that. Beautiful, moist, beautiful meat. I really don't prefer this. I think it's easier and you get nice steaky pieces the other way, but look at how moist. It is just perfect. So that was the breast that we carved in the traditional, you know, and notice I don't have a fork, I use my hands. That's just me. If you have a fork, you can use the fork and the knife. I like to use my hands, so forgive me. Here you can see that plated turkey, just the way it is. But this is another way to get the, you see this breastplate here? And this is hot, by the way. I told you this has been sitting for an hour already. This is hot as all get out. But what you can do is get the entire breast off of the breastbone if you want. So now I'm gonna get this piece of turkey off of this breastplate. I'm gonna come in here, cut around, okay? And see, this is a good piece of meat. This always happens, you know. This is the wishbone, by the way. She got the wishbone out. Awesome. And now we can get this whole piece of breast. You see that beautiful breast? Off and onto the board. Okay, so I've switched to my chef's knife because I find that when I do this way of making this kind of almost treating it like a fillet, right? I get a nice cut. Whatever you're doing, you want a very sharp knife. But this is a very nice way to keep the breast kind of whole and beautiful. So I've shown you a couple different ways to do this. At this point, you have a lot of carcass meat. You can use your carving knife or your chef's knife. You come in, every turkey looks like this. This is, you know, scraps of good stuff that, you know, you can eat. You can save this, platter it or save it for your turkey leftovers, for whatever you're gonna do with the turkey carcass. You do wanna get the thighs off. So we're gonna come around the backside and get the thighs off. This is right here, the oyster bone of the thigh, and the thigh kind of breaks apart pretty naturally like that. And from there, you can just come in and just, you know, take it off. You can leave the bone in if you think people would like that, or you can do a nice thing and as the cook, just kind of, you know, have it be a nice little boneless thigh to get on the platter, which is perhaps a nice thing to do. It depends on your crowd. And then there's gonna be more dark meat through the back. The oyster bone here. This is beautiful. That pocket, lovely pieces. And on we go. Here's our gorgeous Thanksgiving turkey. Beautiful bird. Showed you two different ways to carve it. I like to serve it with a little bit of garnish. I think it's pretty. Nothing beats the gravy. That's how you do it. Technique, not torture, my friends. I hope you have a very happy gobble gobble. And most importantly, a very, very delicious one.